Amidst green cassava field and the sound of village life, a deep sadness hung in the air. Once upon a time, in the village of Umuego, lived a boy named Chuka. His family were poor, yet rich in dreams and hope. His parents, Nnamdi and Amara, were simple cassava farmers. From the first light of dawn to the fall of dusk, their hands worked tirelessly, harvesting cassava to provide for their only son. Though they had little, their greatest hope lay in Chuka's future. They worked to send him to school, sacrificing the little they had, so that one day Chuka might escape the cycle of poverty that ensnared their family. Chuka was different from other boys in the village. He was quiet and thoughtful, spending hours with his books under the old Iroko tree when his school time was over. His dreams was to become a teacher to give back to the community that had shaped him. But Chuka's life was not all about his studies. He had a tender heart, and that heart belonged to Ifeoma. Ifeoma was the light in Chuka's world, the beautiful spirited daughter of a neighboring family. She and Chuka had known each other since childhood. They would often meet after school and head to the cassava field together, helping his parents with the work and talking about their dreams. Ifeoma's laughter was like a melody that lightened the burden of their long day in the field. She believed in Chuka's future as much as he did, and encouraged him to keep chasing his dreams no matter what. But not everyone in the village was happy with their bond. Obinna, the arrogant son of the village chief, had his eyes set on Ifeoma. His wealth and status made him believe he was entitled to anything he wanted, and what he wanted was her. Obinna's jealousy towards Chuka festered like a wound. Time and again, he confronted Chuka in front of the villagers, taunting him and belittling him. "Stay away from her, Chuka," Obinna would sneer, his voice filled with venom. "She deserved better than the son of a poor cassava farmer. You think you can give her the life I can?" Chuka would never respond to Obinna's cruel words. He believed in his love for Ifeoma, and he knew she loved him too. But the tension between him and Obinna grew stronger with each passing day. Even the villagers began to murmur, wondering when the rivalry would come to an end. Then one day, tragedy struck. Obinna was found dead in the forest, his body discovered under the shadow of an ancient tree. His death sent shockwave through the village. The chief, overwhelmed with grief, demanded that the murderer be brought to justice. Whispers soon filled the air, and all fingers pointed to Chuka. The villagers, who had long known about the tension between Chuka and Obinna, were quick to believe that Chuka has killed him because of Ifeoma. Chuka was stunned when the accusation came. He had been nowhere near the forest where Obinna died. But it didn't matter. His family was too poor to mount a proper defense, and the chief, blinded by grief and anger, wanted justice regardless of the truth. The trial was merciless, with no one to speak on his behalf. Chuka was found guilty of Obinna's murder. The chief demanded that Chuka be imprisoned for life, and before Chuka could process what was happening, he was shackled and taken away from his family, his innocence falling on deaf ears. His mother, Amara, collapsed in tears, while his father, Nnamdi, stood silently, his heart heavy with the weight of failure. He had worked so hard to give his son a future, only to see it crushed by a crime he didn't commit. Chuka's life in prison was filled with darkness. Day after day, he prayed for his innocence to be proven. He thought of the cassava fields of his parents, who now had to bear the shame of being the family of a murderer, and of Ifeoma, who was now beyond his reach. His dreams of becoming a teacher faded with every passing year, replaced by the harsh reality of prison walls and unjust suffering. Back in Umuego, the weight of Chuka's imprisonment bore down heavily on his family. His father, Nnamdi, was never the same after Chuka was taken away. The strong, proud man who had once worked tirelessly in the cassava field could no longer summon the strength to carry on. His heart was shattered by the loss of his son, and the shame of being the father of a convicted murderer hung over him like a dark cloud. His body began to fail him as grief consumed his spirit. Nnamdi died quietly one evening. His last thoughts were of his son, locked away in a prison cell, and of the dreams he would never live to see fulfilled. Amara, who was now a widow, was left to tend the farm alone. The villagers who once greeted her with kindness now turned their backs. They whispered as she passed, blaming her for the crime they believed her son committed. Every day, she faced the pain of her son's absence, her husband's death, and the endless labor of trying to survive in a world that has abandoned her. As for Ifeoma, she never believed Chuka committed the crime, but her parents, unwilling to see their daughter tied to a man condemned for murder, forced her to marry another suitor, a wealthy farmer from a nearby village. Ifeoma had no choice but to obey. Though her heart belonged to Chuka, she was taken from him, her life bound to another. Years passed and Chuka's name became a distant memory in Umuego. But then something miraculous happened. A man named Ikenna, a gambler and troublemaker from a neighboring village, confessed to Obina's mother. He revealed that Obina's death had nothing to do with Ifeoma, but instead was the result of a dispute over a gambling debt. Ikenna and his accomplice had framed Chuka, knowing that the rivalry between him and Obina would make him an easy scapegoat. With his confession, Chuka's innocence was finally proven, and he was released from prison after 5 years of wrongful imprisonment. Chuka's return to Umuego was bittersweet. Though his name was cleared, the life he had known was gone. His father was dead, his mother a shadow of the woman she had once been, and Ifeoma, the love of his life, has been married off to another. The villagers who had once accused him now greeted him with shame and guilt, but their apologies were too late. Chuka stood by his father's grave and realized that though he has been vindicated, he has lost everything. His love, his family, and dreams he has once held so dear has been stolen from him by a wicked twist of fate. As the sun set over the field, Chuka knelt by his father's grave, tears falling silently as he whispered the word he had never been able to say. "I am sorry, Papa. I am sorry I couldn't come back sooner." He closed his eyes, feeling the weight of all he has lost and knowing that no justice could ever repair the deep wounds left by the years of suffering. And so Chuka walked through the village, no longer the boy filled with hope and dreams, but a man marked by loss. The cassava field, which was once a place of love and laughter, were now silent, holding only the memories of a life stolen too soon.